So this is the video for 11.2 and 11.3. And so here, 11.2, determining limiting reactant, excess reactant, and theoretical yields. So using a simple example of a sandwich, if we have this equation here, which is essentially that in one sandwich we're using 2 pieces of bread, 3 pieces of ham, and 1 piece of cheese, we figure out that if we have 8 pieces of cheese, using dimensional analysis, 8 cheese times 1 sandwich over 1 cheese. Sorry if you can hear the sirens. 8 divided by 1 equals 8. And so we can make 8 sandwiches from 8 pieces of cheese. And then again with dimensional analysis, 10 divided by this 2 from the equation equals 5. 12 divided by 3 equals 4. And so you can make 8 sandwiches with the cheese given, 5 with the bread, and 4 with the ham. So the limiting reactant is the reactant that essentially gives us the least product. And so in the sandwich example, that's the ham, because it gave us the 4 as opposed to the 5 or the 8. Then the excess reactant is that whatever is left over of the other reactants after that limiting reactant's out. And so in this example, it would be with like 2 bread and 4 cheese. And so the theoretical yield is the max amount of product that can be made from the limiting reactant, which is what you find. It's just like what you use dimensional analysis for. And so that's going to be 4 in our example, but the actual yield is what you collect in the lab. So if you were trying to make 4 sandwiches, but a dog ate 1, 4 minus 1, that's 3. So your actual yield is a different number usually than your theoretical yield. And so now, if we use this with chemistry as opposed to sandwiches, you're going to have to calculate essentially what the yield would be with either of these products starting. So let's start with Na. It gives us 22.5 grams. And then match it up in 1 mole. According to the periodic table, there's 22.99. And with our mole ratio, it's 2 to 2. Then back to grams. And then these grams are found with the periodic table. Just mathing it out. And that all equals 57.2 grams of NaCl. But now we need to see what we get with the other one. So starting with that 30.0 grams of HCl. It's the same mole ratio. And then using that same 58.44. And that's going to equal 48.1 gram. And so since this is smaller, this is going to be your theoretical yield. And also then HCl is going to be your limiting reactant. And so here, they've already done all the math for us. We just need to see, based off of that math, what's the limiting, excess, and theoretical yield. And so since 14 is smaller than 15.6, whatever was used with it is going to be our limiting reactant, so aluminum. And so then whatever the math out with the limiting reactant is going to be your theoretical yield. So at 14 grams is our theoretical yield. And then whatever isn't your limiting reactant is your excess reactant. So the S here, that's sulfur, was that. So that's it for 11.2. Now on to 11.3, calculating percent yield. So here you're going to be taking the actual yield divided by the theoretical yield and multiplying it times 100 to get the percent. And you're always going to report a percent in 2 decimal places. So with the sandwich example, we had the 3 because the dog ate 1, divided by the predicted 4, which would be 0.75. And so to get it to a percent, you multiply it times 100. So you get 75.00%. And then that's it. You get those 2 decimal places. And so here, we're going to try and calculate the percent yield if 110 of this is recovered. And so this is predicting, giving us 2 different predictions of it. We take the smaller one because of this being the limiting reactant. And so our actual recovery is 110 grams and divided by the predicted 144. And then you multiply times 100, and that's going to come out to be 76.39%. And so now something similar, except we're trying to figure out what the actual yield would need to be if they give us what the percent yield is. And so we're taking the actual yield, which we don't know, which would be divided by whichever of these is smaller, which is the 68.2. Multiply times 100, it's going to equal that 80.00. And so we can take out that 100, divide each side by 100. So AY over 68.2 equals 0.8000. And so now you would just multiply that 0.8000 times 68.2 so that your actual yield is coming out to be 54.6 measured in grams.